Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. My sprouting queen here, my partner for life, is Nicole. And we're going to go over some things about the Hippocrates lifestyle, but mainly we're going to focus on the sprouts because it's such a big part of the lifestyle. And I went through the online program, which I'm sure everybody in here is on. And I'm also, Maria and I, we went through the Noble Manhattan coaching program. So a lot of my clients, I blend life coaching in with lifestyle medicine coaching, and then I do them separately too. So I've had a lot of people come to me for help with different things and helping them transition. A lot of people, some people they want to go vegan, some people they want to go raw, some people they want the Hippocrates way. We've sent a bunch of people down there that have had cancers and various illnesses. So when you do make it through the program, people will seek you out. But the number one thing that I can stress is to really understand everything that you're learning, because it's so much information, is bring it into your life and bring it into your home. And then you master it and you can teach it like that. But until you bring it into your home, it's still going to be something you have to like teach. But when it's something that's in your home, you're going to become it and people are just going to see it. So what I'm going to start off with is I just want to show you my kitchen, because we transformed our house to support us in the process. And a lot of people, they downplay how important it is to change your environment to support it. And I know Hippocrates talks about it a little bit, but there's some psychology behind it. Okay, for instance, I'll give you an example. I came across someone, they want to juice every day, okay? But they don't like the juicer being out on their counter because they don't like the clutter on their counter. Well, this lifestyle does not support that type of thinking. It just doesn't. You have to live for yourself. It doesn't matter what your kitchen looks like. It doesn't matter what people think of you. You got to do what supports you. And I'll give you another example. So ball jars, okay? We sprout in them, we juice in them, and you do your nuts in them, you do your seeds in them.
And you drink out of them, and they're cool cups.
Yeah, so you drink out of them, right? We got rid of all other cups. We don't own anything else, right? So people come over to our house for dinner, and they get a ball jar. And we've had people, they're like, oh, that's not professional, that's not nice. You know, that's, you got to have like some special dinnerware and stuff for when people come over. And then they can't find room for their ball jars in their kitchen, and their ball jars get shoved in the back corner, and then they're frustrated and they don't know why they can't implement this stuff into their life. So
we had a hand raise.
I think she might not have been moving her hand towards something else. So I'm just here to say that you got to go 100% and really transform your life with this. Otherwise, you're going to kind of work against yourself. So what I wanted to show you is, and this is a raw whole thing here, okay? This is what we do, and I've seen plenty of pictures of people doing this in Hippocrates. We simply just use our sprouting trays as a simple spot to put your sprouts up against the wall. You got a little rubber thing under there so it doesn't, doesn't slip on you. We use these are the only lids that we have come across that really work. And there's different sizes for different holes. So you use the big ones for your pea shoots. And then you use the small holes for your alfalfas and, your red clovers and all your other, your really small seeds for your sprouts. And we normally have these things full. And you can grow so many sprouts. So we have a routine, and it's really my wife that leads the way on the sprouting. I really only take over when she leaves, but I've kind of brought the knowledge in. And one day I was in Costa Rica, and she just was like, I'm going to start growing sprouts. And our house turned into a sprout forest. So we support ourselves, everything. We even juice some of these because we have so many. And you can really make special tonics for yourself if you start juicing this kind of stuff. You really can bring the power of these sprouts into your juices, and you can taste it in your juices too.
One thing I want to show you all is the trays. I use the ones with rivets here so that when the jars sit in them, it catches it and it holds it up. Otherwise, if it was just a flat base, they would just slide all around. So if you have any desire to set your trays up like we do, it works best to have the trays with the rivets in it.
Oh, there's somebody in the waiting room, Rhea. We can admit them too. Okay, it's okay. I just admitted them. The little thing popped up. And another thing is, see how first of all, we got rid of our stove. Okay, so these are all our sprouts. If you guys are going to be serious with the sprouts, buy the big stuff, buy the buckets. You save a ton of money. So this is what is that? Wheatgrass?
This is pea shoots.
This is pea shoots. And we got a 50-gallon, 35-gallon bucket of wheatgrass. We have, these are all different types of seeds here, okay? And, you know, that's our wild rice. That's not anything too crazy. Oh, and this is where our stove used to be. So what I did was I took the stove out. You know, we don't use that anymore, okay? And then I made this countertop and I made shelves, and it was like a big change for us, okay? Once the stove left, game changer. Game changer. It really is. If you're ready for it, if your family's ready for it, you know, just get rid of that thing. You don't use it anymore, you know. And also, I ripped all my cabinets down. Boom. Got rid of them. Because cabinets don't make sense to me anymore because you got to open the doors all the time and they're just in the way. And I made my kitchen really easy because we just put these open shelves up and it's really cheap and affordable to do. And people come over all the time and they tell us they love our kitchen. And if they only knew it cost me like a couple $100 to do compared to thousands of dollars on kitchen cabinets that people do. A lot of people say, I want to do that. I've even people have offered me a job to come over and do it for them. And then, you know, like the ball jars, we have just like I said, you got to set yourself up. So we have a soaking stage, ball jar stage, and just, you know, everything that we need is right here and accessible. So the first thing I thought of when I did all this was easiness. Okay, and then there's our water distiller. And if you guys don't have one of these, I know Hippocrates talks about it a lot. Distilled water is a huge game changer. Huge game changer. So this is an investment. It has an autofill in it, so it fills up automatically. It's always full. And I'm actually working on getting a nozzle to run over to my sink because we have to fill our jars up and stuff right here. But this is a game changer. So I really recommend investing in the money on one of these. They run about $1,500, or you can get a tabletop one, the ones that they show you in the program. I don't know where you're at in the program, but if it's just you, tabletop one will be fine. But if it's more than just you and a family, you want to go with one of these. And your pets. Our dogs' coats, their eyes, their teeth have all gotten better from drinking distilled water. So I think that's pretty much it for the kitchen.
Michael?
Yes.
Someone asked, where do you buy your seeds? Elizabeth asked.
True Leaf Market. That's the best place that we've come across price-wise. And just also accessibility. Because I was bouncing around to all these different seed stores and it was driving me nuts. I'd be like, oh, I'll save $5 here. I'll save $10 here. And I was buying at all these different places. And then I was just like, okay, True Leaf Market has everything. I go down and I just buy it all. And because I don't care anymore, you know?
We do get our sunflower sprouts from Hippocrates on their online website. Everything else
No,
is
not
True Leaf.
anymore.
Yeah.
Do we? Okay. I think we just get sunflower from them. Okay. So we get sunflower seeds from the Hippocrates website. That's it. But also, we're buying in bulk. We don't buy the little bags. The smallest thing we buy are
These 5-pound tin cans.
5-pound tin cans for your smaller seeds. But the pea shoots, the sunflowers, and the wheatgrass we buy in 50-pound or 35-pound bags. And that's when you really start to save money with True Leaf. It's where their prices really get good, is when you buy bulk like that.
One thing I want to say about the sprouting lids. So as Michael mentioned, when I buy them, they come in a case. There's all 3. In my experience, when you get the lids that are they're just green ones, and it comes like in a pack of 10 green. I don't know the brand, but they don't twist onto the ball jars very well. These ones that come in a pack of 3 with these 3 colors are amazing. I don't know why, but the ones on Amazon, they're all green. They just would never twist. So I started using them when I would do my tray sprouts. I would put them under my drain tray to catch the water, because it was too frustrating having to get them under the ball jar. So that's just my experience. And they're not too expensive, and they come in a pack.
Where did you buy them?
Wherever's cheapest. I just Googled sprout lids. Vitacost one time, iHerb, I think. There's not one place. I think they're usually a little more expensive on Amazon, but the ones that just come in a pack of 3, if you just do a Google search, a bunch will come up, and then get the cheapest one with the best shipping. I don't have one company that I get them from.
All right, one more thing that I wanted to talk about, and I know that this actually, I don't know if it's covered in the course or not, but when it comes to like disinfectants, hydrogen peroxide, and I know vinegar's covered in the course. Hydrogen peroxide is what you want to use. You can literally get rid of all other disinfectants in your home. I studied sanitation. I ran a flotation business, so I studied sanitation pretty in-depthly. There's 2 types of sanitation that are it goes inert, which means after some time it won't harm the body and it leaves no chemicals, okay? So we buy this 35% hydrogen peroxide.
It's food grade. Make sure you get the food grade.
You want food grade. You can actually ingest it, not the 35%. You have to dilute it down to 11 or 10%. And you have to be careful. If you do touch the 35%, it will turn your skin white. It'll burn, but it won't hurt you. But you got to dilute it in water. So it's a 1 to 11 mixture. But
we dilute it in this, and then this is what I use to clean the sprout jars after I'm done soaking. I just keep this right by the sink.
Hydrogen peroxide, and you also have ozone. And ozone is something that I got turned on to relatively in the past year and a half or so when I had my flotation tank. It was a spa, so I had to keep everything very clean. And ozone is an extra hydrogen, an extra molecule of oxygen. So it's HO3. It's very inert. It won't harm you. You can literally drink the water that you ozone. Some people do that. And they actually, I know you've learned about the ozone injections that people get through to clean their systems out from parasites and viruses and all the candida and things like that. But this you can use to sanitize your vegetables, anything you want to sanitize. So what I do is I ozone a bucket of water, and I literally will wipe all the walls down in my house. And you can feel how much cleaner your house gets. So when you go to clean, what I do is I put a little hydrogen peroxide in there and I ozone it, and it is like sanitation heaven, and it actually does the job, unlike all that 99.9% kills the flu virus crap that you read on all that Clorox stuff, and it's killing the microbes on our hands and our bodies and our nose and all that kind of stuff. And this stuff doesn't harm the environment. Ozone's what happens when there's a thunderstorm. So your house will smell like a thunderstorm. It smells really fresh. So I just wanted to touch base on that, because my purpose here, guys, is just to help you guys out in your journey. I want to see more people living healthy and on this lifestyle, because it's how we're going to save the planet. So, every little thing helps. Other than that,
Guys, let's talk.
what's
I
that?
was gonna say let's talk storage and temperature in your house for the seeds.
We're gonna move into that now.
So
Okay, we'll move in there now. You want to get your
Yep.
phone?
we'll switch rooms.
Give us a second. We're gonna switch to a different camera.
Turn your microphone off.
So I'm gonna spotlight you. Boop. And
Did you mute yours?
you know, we'll have to bring this with us and hear all of it.
Guys, we can't hear you.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay. We're gonna have to use the Okay, so you can hear me, right, Maria?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so what you want to keep your room at to grow sprouts is 50% humidity. And in order to do that, we have this room is dedicated to a dehumidifier. And this one's big enough to do a whole basement, so you don't need the one this big. But this is what we have. And it keeps this room perfect at 50% humidity. And then we have this room, a specific air conditioner that we don't let the room get above like 74. So if you're trying to, a lot of people have commented they're getting mold on their wheatgrass and they're getting mold on their sunflower sprouts. It's because of your humidity. And we tried everything until we did this. And we dedicated this room to, and we have a gauge here. So we literally know exactly what we're dealing with all the time. And if you look at our sprouts, they're amazing. We can do a little better, which we're going to get into lighting soon, and then we're going to be able to push our sunflower sprouts to have little more robust stems and things like that. But we've fixed a lot of problems so far. And the humidity is the main thing. We had a consult with a guy. He's one of the biggest sprout growers in New York City. And he gave us a lot of tips on things. So we had to combine what we learned with Hippocrates and from him. And his consult wasn't cheap. So he really knew what he was talking about. And he's one of the main guys up here on the East Coast that grows, I think he has huge greenhouses and supplies, Brooklyn and Queens and Manhattan, all with wheatgrass and sprouts. So this guy really knew what he was talking about. So, and here in a minute, Nikki's going to hop on a plant for you guys, but I want you to know that some of the ways that Hippocrates tells us to grow sprouts, they don't really work for in-home stuff. We had a lot of issues with, we followed everything it told us to a T, and we kept getting molds, and our stuff wasn't growing right. And Nikki really dialed it into how many seeds go into a tray, how much dirt, and things like that. So the takeaway from this is 50% humidity between 65 and 74 degrees. The higher, what was it?
Like 69, 74.
Oh, she's saying 69, but really it could go even a little. It won't hurt the sprouts to go lower. It's just if the temperature goes a little higher, it can create a higher humidity. So that's why you have to have the dehumidifier. So depending on your environment, you have to work with your environment. But if you do this, then you're gonna be perfect. And the reality of it is, depending on where you live, if you're growing sprouts in your home, your air conditioner has to be on all the time. The minute your air conditioner stops, your humidity shoots through the roof, and even your jar sprouts can mold and they get all funky. So people that are struggling with that kind of stuff, you got to run your air conditioner. And that's mainly one of the biggest things, and Nikki's going to cover the rest of it. but just show them real close. So we have our sunflower sprouts. We got them a lot stronger from a method that we're going to show you today, and our pea shoots are perfect. And this is our wheatgrass. And there's no stitch of mold anywhere in this stuff. And it tastes delicious. It really does. And these are the different methods. So I'm going to switch over to you now, and you can talk about the sunflower and the weights and things like that.
One thing I wanted to touch upon first is you just saw me remove these trays. So these are the pea shoots here. This is the third day. So as you guys know, on the third day you take the tray off. The wheatgrass, for those that may not have grown it yet, the tray was like this morning, and I took it off this morning. In my experience, the wheatgrass tends to grow a little quicker than the pea shoots, but these are all third dayers, and then this batch here is all to harvest. So for us, like Michael mentioned, some of the things that Hippocrates recommended didn't work for us, climate differences, and we're in our home. So sunflowers are ready to harvest. Once I plant them, the 11th day I harvest. The pea shoots I harvest on the 6th day, and the wheatgrass I harvest on the 7th day. So that's the timing. Now I want to show you, in the beginning, one of the struggles I had was how to record everything and to know when it was the third day and when it was the 6th day. So this was a group effort with Mike and I. We have a calendar here, and this is what's worked best for me. So you'll see, like, let's do it today, for example. Today is the 28th, okay? So my symbols are S is sunflower, wheatgrass, pea shoot, remove lid. So, and then tomorrow is, you'll see S5. That's the 5th day of sunflowers. I'll go over right now with the sunflowers. On the 5th day, you might want to do something. On the 8th day, you might want to do something. And then the 11th day, you harvest. So this is how I keep record of it all. Find a system that works for you, but I really recommend a paper calendar because I started on my phone and it was just a disaster. And with a paper calendar, you can see everything and you know what's coming up. So on Monday, the pea shoots are ready to harvest. On Tuesday, it'll be the 8th day for the sunflowers. We'll go over what that means. Then, next Friday, I'm harvesting another batch of sunflower sprouts. So with the sunflower,
organization's very, very important, because if you want your sprouts to taste and have the texture that is just amazing, it's very important. We have to harvest them as soon as they're ready. Mm-hmm. Even like a day or two after they're ready to harvest, the king and queen sprouts here, the taste and the texture dramatically changes. So being organized is extremely important.
So you guys see these little flyaways here? This should have been harvested last night. It grew a little quicker, probably because it was a little hotter. So I would have done this last night if it weren't for this class. So for me, I don't like to see all these little flyaways, but personal preference with taste. If you wait too long to harvest, like we learned in the class, the taste changes, the nutrition levels go down. So you can play with that, but for
Show
me,
them the joint.
Oh, so the jointing stage for wheatgrass, you'll see it's a little past grown because, so right here, see how there's another growth right there coming out of it? It's kind of hard to see.
You learned this in the course too, but we just wanted to go over.
Yeah, it's hard to see if it's already ready.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
So pea shoots and wheatgrass, I grow the same. So in terms of, I don't use weight on my pea shoots or my wheatgrass. I tried that and it just didn't work well. That was in the beginning, so maybe if I tried again now, it might be a little better. But for me, they've worked fine this way, so I just haven't changed anything. You definitely use weight for the sunflower sprouts. So these are ready to harvest. So I'll start from the beginning. You'll see here, I ran out of heavy books, so I needed to go downstairs and get some weight, so I didn't have all these books. But the first 5 days of sunflower sprouts, you have a tray with weight. and I ran out of a dark towel. What I've been doing is covering them with a towel as well. I need to go get one for this. On the 5th day, the books will literally rise up because the sunflower sprouts push them up. It's fascinating. So here, you can see it starting to happen. So see how it's coming up a little bit? You can kind of see them poking out. They will push this, and this is heavy. I can almost barely lift it. They will push this up to about right here. When you can see about an inch of the sprouts poking through, what you'll do is you'll flip the tray. So the trays, it was on like this. What you'll do is you'll flip it so that more of the sprout stays covered, and then I put the weight back on. And then you keep it covered like that with the weight on it until day 8-ish. It depends. Your environment might change some things. So again, when you have this covered with the weight, and I put a towel over it as well, I've been playing with that, it will push it up again. And then on day 8, it'll push it up to about here. You'll take this off completely and you'll let it grow and it'll turn green. When you remove the cover tray, the sprouts will be yellow because they haven't really received any sunlight. And they'll green up in about an hour or so. It's pretty fascinating. You know sunflowers are ready to harvest. So the jointing stage, if you look between the leaves, I don't know if you can see it. See that little growth right there? So in the middle of this thing.
Yep.
See that little growth right there? That's the jointing stage. When you see that, time to harvest. If you harvest too late, that growth there will grow and grow and grow. So you don't want that. Like this one right here, this little guy, I don't know, he might take some steroids. Look at him. He grew too much. But the most of the tray is just jointed, so it's the perfect time. So today I'll be harvesting this. And then for pea shoots, the jointing stage, again, there's a little growth in the center. I don't know if you can see that. On my fingers, see that little.
You can see pictures of it online if you just Google joint, and you'll notice exactly what we're talking about.
Another important thing, if you have a setup like we do, we have the main light in the middle of the room. As Michael mentioned, we don't yet have lights on each level. So what I do is every night when I water, when I put it back, I flip it so that what was in the back is now on the front. Just so it greens evenly.
And if I'm speaking to any entrepreneurs in the room that are interested in this, we used to have 3 racks like 3, right? We had 3 we had 3 racks like this in this room. And I was calculating it relatively. We were able to do 1, 2, 3, almost 7 or 8 trays a day. It was like 10 trays a day could be getting harvested in a room this big. And we could have even done more because obviously this is our office too. So we weren't even using the rest of the room. And if you count, some people charge $40 a tray, right? $40 to $50 a tray sometimes.
Depending on which sprout, because the yield is different.
Right. So if you're harvesting, that many trays a day at 30, 40, 50, depending on what variety you have, you can make a living. People in New York City literally make really good money doing this out of just an apartment building. So it's possible. And she almost started it, but it didn't run that way. Got too busy.
One last thing I want to show you. See how I have the levels here labeled with tape? 6, 5, 4. This is what I did in the beginning to keep track of what day I was on. So if, say, like for example, these were day 3 because I removed the lids. On my calendar, I would put RL, remove lid, and I would put 4. So I knew that was level 4. Because when you have a bunch of trays going, you lose track of what's what. Now I've been doing this so long, I can just eyeball it, and I know, okay, these are day 3s. But when I first started, I had no idea. So it's just little tidbits to help you out to keep track. Because if you don't set yourself up with this organization, it gets overwhelming, and then you lose the fun and the joy of sprouting, which defeats the purpose. Because when you come into this room and you smell it, it's like, it's amazing, and it calms you right down. It's pretty great.
Do you want to water it?
Yeah, so we'll go plant.
You're going to water out there?
Yeah, no, I'll water in here.
I did want to comment on, somebody asked if we grew, here, just hold this and point it at me. So somebody asked if we grew our microgreens in trays. So the reason that we don't do that is for cost effective and time. So we grow all this for the nutritional benefit and to maximize the nutritional benefit. The reason why people grow microgreens is in my perspective, is they just look really nice. Okay, so you grow your alfalfa out a little bit, and like, you know, really high-end chefs or people can use the microgreens to like fluff up a salad or like whatever. But you can grow alfalfa in jars in how many days exactly?
7.
In 7 days, boom, you have the maximum nutritional benefit of the alfalfa plant. But if you continue growing it into microgreens, you're using more time, more energy, and you're not getting any nutritional benefit. In fact, it's actually going down.
And you need a ton of seeds.
And you need a ton of seeds to grow a whole tray. When you can pack out a jar with a tablespoon. Okay? So that's why we don't do that. And that's why microgreens are so expensive, because when you see the price of alfalfa seeds and red clover seeds, and you want to go grow them in a tray, you're going to realize why you're paying for the microgreens prices. So that's why we don't do that. If we could grow everything in jars, we would, but you can't grow the king sprouts in jars. So we're going to move into planting. I'm going to start. Can you start this stuff up again?
Yep.
Because you know exactly how to do it.
You're muted on there, remember?
If anyone has any questions so far about anything Michael has said, just unmute yourself and go ahead.
Yeah, if anybody has a question, we can take a minute to answer questions before we get into planting.
Yes, I have. You hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I have a question on. I was the one who asked about the microgreens on the how you said it, on the not in the jars, but on the no.
On the trays.
The name on the tray, yes. My experience with growing, for example, radish in a mason jar is that I don't like the hulls, you know, which you eat also directly. So what do you do with the hulls when you with the alfalfa and the clover? You just eat it, or you just rinse it in a kind of way, so you leave it?
So, good question. The holes for us, they all come off. See them at the bottom there? They're all kind of packed at the bottom. So when you're rinsing these jars, this is red clover, for example. When you're rinsing it, really make sure you're like shaking it to get the water out. Because a lot of them,
It'll knock loose.
It knocks loose some of them. And like they're all on the top there too. And then they're all like in the, see how they're all like in the,
all this
the
are the
rim?
holes.
Yeah, they all come out there.
I don't see any of the holes. This is almost ready to harvest, and I don't see any of the holes on here.
But yes, it's quite interesting, I find, because when I experience doing with the mason jar, I have them all around. You know, I also shit like this, and sometimes I even rinse them without the lid. Twice, 3 times to get the holes out.
How long do you sprout them in the jar for?
How long? Well, it depends. You know, I don't have it depends what the weather is. I do it in the kitchen, and I have not a temperature which is controlled.
Mm-hmm.
So it's depending on what the climate is.
That could
summer, winter. So in the summer it goes much more quicker, and in the winter it's a bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's too summer, I really can do it because it gets rotten.
Yeah, we I used to not like turning on the air conditioning in my house, but once we had sprouts, you have to.
Yeah.
It's the only way to really be able to
I'm
regulate
really,
it.
I love to see your place, you know, it's really, really nice. I only have a problem. I have one room in which we live, we cook, we do everything here. So
If you put an air conditioner in that room, you would be good.
What zeg je? What do you
If
say?
you put an air conditioner in that room, you'd be fine.
Yeah.
If you could.
When we first started the tray sprouts, we did them in the living room because I loved looking at them, but it was too hot and humid. And we didn't want to keep our house at 73, 72-ish degrees. It was too cold for us. So that's when we kicked them all into the sprout room, into the office. But you mentioned earlier the radish sprouts in the jar. Same thing with the red clover. The holes just come off. I don't know, maybe the seeds that you had were old or weren't good seeds. You could try that, because when we first started growing sunflower sprouts, it was very frustrating for me because it wasn't working. And I didn't know any better. It was the first time I did it until I used up all those seeds and I bought a new batch, and everything was completely different. I'm like, oh my gosh, my seeds were bad.
Yeah.
So,
well, I experienced that the same, you know, because now it almost starts that there will be new seeds again, because here in Holland, you know, the harvest has been done. But so now I have the seed from 1 year. I buy for 1 year, so almost. And I know I'm really thinking what is the best way to store the seeds, because it's I now know, because my wheat seeds is now doing for 2 days to get a tiny little bit sprout. So you know it's old. You know, it's not, you don't feel the seeds have the energy anymore to germinate.
All right, I'm gonna I was just reading on the chat here. I'm gonna just read back. I live in Hawaii and it gets 90 degrees here. How would I store my seeds? And if I get mold in my wheatgrass, how do I avoid the mold where I live? So 90 degrees is too hot to grow sprouts in. You got to get the room down to like 74, between 69 and 74. It's too hot to store your seeds in that temperature as well. So you got to store the seeds in a dry, cool place. So we store our seeds right in our kitchen, but like I said, because we have a decent amount of money invested in seeds, we could probably live off of 2 years with what we have here. We always keep our air conditioner running. So living in Hawaii, you might have to get creative. I've seen, I mean, you can like dig holes in the grounds and things like that in the ground. I've seen all sorts of stuff on permaculture and things like that to how you can store food in the earth, and it's a lot cooler. It'll probably work with seeds if you don't have an air conditioner. So electric bill, our electric bill with the dehumidifier and that little air conditioner running. I live in Pennsylvania in the United States, and if those two things run all the time,
which they do,
I think my electric bill went up maybe $25. Everything's very energy efficient now. So, and we don't eat out. So I look at it like we don't buy food we don't like eat out very much. We cut a lot of stuff out of our life. So if my electric bill goes up so I can get medicine in my body every single day, then that's what we do. There's really, I don't even think about it. There's no excuse for me. I just like make stuff happen when I know it's right, and I cut everything else out. But when it comes to this stuff, I just make it happen. As for the hydroponics, we never went down that route. To be honest, I looked only, I know a little bit about hydroponics just for growing hemp and marijuana, just because, hey, it's big in the US now. But so hydroponics, when I studied it in school a little bit, and I almost went down that route, but this is the best way that I found. It's just simple, regimented, nothing's on timers, nothing, you just do it. You have a regiment, you follow it, and you have beautiful sprouts that you grow.
Regarding the mold, the issue that we had in the beginning was the soil. So I was so new to all of this. I didn't even know the difference between potting soil and potting mix. So Hippocrates always recommended potting mix. I didn't know the difference when I first bought soil, because everyone just refers to it as soil. I bought potting soil, which had moisture holding ingredients in it. So all my sprouts were molding because the soil was retaining the moisture. Every wheatgrass would mold. Everything would mold. I was throwing tray after tray after tray out, and it was very frustrating. So when I got the right soil,
Dozens and dozens of
Yeah.
trays have been thrown out.
it was just nuts.
Of perfectly good wheatgrass.
So the soil that I use now, and based on that consult that we had with that sprout guy in New York, he recommended Pro Mix soil. It comes in a big black bag. Pro Mix 3.8 is like the title of it. It's in a black bag. There's other versions of Pro Mix. There's some in white bags. I get the black bag, and it's worked perfect for me. Would other potting mixes work? Probably, but after a year of mold, not a year, but 6 months of mold, when that worked perfectly, I never changed it. So I stick with that. It's sometimes difficult to find though. Walmart has it sometimes, or Griffin Greenhouse is where I get it from. They usually always have it.
You can make your own potting mix. It's just when there's a moisture holding component in the soil, that's for plants that need that moisture to suspend in the soil, because we water our sprouts every day. So some plants need that moisture in the soil all the time. But when it comes to especially wheatgrass, because if you think about wheatgrass, how dense the plants or the grass is, that if there's moisture in there and the humidity's not right, it's a perfect breeding ground for growing mold. And I will say this, the mold in wheatgrass that you'll see in between, it is not systemic. It's not in the blood of the plant. So we have been advised by people that know what they're talking about that you can just wash it off, but we don't mess around with it because, I just don't want it. But it is not systemic. So I don't know, you can do with it what you want. We would just throw it out.
This is the soil. It's an empty bag. So Pro Mix BX. This is what I get, just so you know what it looks like.
Yep, works great. Other Pro Mix soil mixes will probably work just as fine. Okay, Nikki's gonna plant now for you exactly what she does, and literally we've tried like so many different ways, and this is just we've been growing perfect sprouts now for what, a year?
Probably even a little more.
Probably a year, but it was like 6 to 8 months of frustration, mold, and learning the hard way. So she's gonna just, you wanna do it over there?
You wanna do this?
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna switch views again here. And I'll spotlight you. Turn this on. Boop. All right, there we go. I have to spotlight you. All right.
So for the amount of soil that you want to use, about 1 inch. So this is a 10 by 20 tray. It's 2 inches high, roughly. So I have a little flower pot that I use, and I fill that 4 times, which gets me the soil that I need. But generally, it's about 1 inch. And you want to make sure, as you guys know, break up any of the clumps that are in here, just so your sprouts can move efficiently. I don't do this in the kitchen because it makes a mess. I have my grow spot downstairs, but I just wanted to show you guys. So let me out. This way. And then a really important thing is you want the soil to be generally even, just so everything, all the sprouts get the same amount. And then push it down with your hands. And then Brian mentions this in the class, but it's really important that you then want to get an empty black tray, okay? And push. And you want to get all the reason for pushing is to get all the air out of the soil. And in the beginning, I would put it on the ground and stand on it. So it doesn't really matter, you just want to get it out. Okay, you'll have these nice little rivets. And then this is something that I do. I was never taught, I just do it. I like to water my sprouts before I plant them just so that they're hydrated and moist. Probably not necessary, but I like to do it because in the beginning I was having some trouble with the seeds drying out. I would plant them, they would look all nice and white and vibrant, and then they would dry out. So I just like to give them a little soak. I maybe don't do this every time, but 9 times out of 10 I do. And one thing that didn't work for us that Hippocrates mentions is in each tray, they recommend 2 cups of seeds, okay, soaked. So in each jar, it would be, I guess, 2 jars for one tray, 1 cup in here, 1 cup in here. That was too many seeds for us. I don't know why. They would overlap too much. They would mold. They wouldn't grow. So what I do is I do 1.5 cups. So I do 3/4 cup in one, 3/4 cup in the other. It's just what has worked for me. Oh, actually, you know what? We need to go in there because I wet the soil first. So let's go finish in there.
Okay. This is the raw version here. We're just going with it and making it up as we go. We do have a mascot with us today. His name is Donald.
He wants dinner.
Okay.
So let's go over these first.
All right.
When I
Maria, are we still good? You can give me a thumbs up. You can hear us good?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
When I first started, I had a little handheld sprayer. Actually, I had a little like squeezy thing, and my hand hurt and it was cramping and it was too much. So then I got a little handheld sprayer that would spray automatically. And then I got this thing, and it changed my life because it can sit on the ground. I don't have to hold it up. You just pump it, and it's the best thing ever. So it is a 2-gallon. I think it's actually like a fertilizer spray from like Home Depot or Lowe's. And I just wet the soil before I plant, just to get it moist. You don't have to do this. I just do. I don't know why. I just always have. Okay. And then you just add the sprouts. I love the sound it makes when it comes out of the jar. Now, as you can see, getting closer, see how long this is? This is too long. I should have done this morning, but based on the timing of our class, I didn't want to have to like wake up in the middle of the night to start soaking. So had I planted these this morning, the sprout wouldn't have been that long, but it's fine. And then you just want to spread them out, create an even layer. They can overlap a little bit, but you don't want them overlapping too much because then they suffocate each other and then they don't grow evenly. So as you can see here, the tray is pretty full.
This is what it's like a solid, just one layer of seeds.
You want to cover as much soil as you can, so you really don't want to see much soil. If I would have done another 1/2 cup, which is what the guidelines in Hippocrates mentioned, for me it was just too much. I don't know why, it just didn't work, and then I wouldn't get the proper yield. So you can play with that, but even it out as best you can, and then you just want to give it a good watering. So again, you'll learn based on your environment, the humidity, the temperature of your room, how much you need to water. I will water for about a minute or two. I won't do it as long today just because we're on the call. I'll do it when we end. But something that's worked really well for me is when I would plant, okay, say I did plant it in the morning. When I would go to water at night, because the first 3 days I water twice a day. When I would go to plant at night, the seeds would be all shriveled up. Right now they're thick and white and they look really nice. And they would be like dried out. And I was like, what the heck? So what I started doing is an hour or two after I plant, I water again. And that's worked perfect for me. So I've even played around with like watering a lot the first time and then not watering again in an hour or two. And I haven't really quite figured out why, but watering twice close in time is just what's worked best for me. So I'll water again more when we're done. And then you want to cover it.
So the reason why you want to plant twice like that is because, you know, these little pea shoots are like Olympic athletes, and then they get done their race, which is growing in a jar, and then they're in for their marathon right before they're about to go into the soil, and they need another drink to continue on their journey of growing into a pea shoot. So she really, that was a big difference for us, because we used to not have as good of a yield that we do now.
So as for watering, the first 3 days of any of the sprouts, I water with this sprayer, okay? The water comes out, because this is the 3rd day. See how the sprouts actually grown? You know, it's not just a little, you know, starting to flower. It's not just a little sprout here. Once they start to get the flower, they're not as sensitive, and you don't have to actually hit every single seed with water. So after the 3rd day, or even sometimes on the 3rd day, depending, I use this. Okay, and I'll actually water this just to show you.
This saves a lot of time.
Yes, this is amazing. When you get, I recommend one of these, and I go like this, and I'm done. It's so much quicker. So after the 3rd day, watering really takes no time. But you want to make sure that the watering can you get has a bunch of little holes. Otherwise, it comes out too forceful or not enough. So if you find one with a ton of little tiny holes, it's perfect.
And you know, these little details may seem kind of small, but when you have 4 or 5 trays going at once, the time management on these little things that we've learned that are just easy, they save a ton of time in the long run. If it saves you 10 minutes a night, that's 70 minutes a week, and then times that on a month, and it makes you more efficient. So
with watering, the first, like I said, the first 3 days I'll water morning and night, and then after that I water just once at night. You could do morning, whatever works for you. I just tend to have some more time in the evening. And then what I typically do is the night before. So wheatgrass is ready to harvest today. Yesterday, last night, I didn't water it, because when I harvest it soon, I want it to be dry. If you water it the night before, down at the bottom it's still real moist, and then I have to lay them out to dry in a tray, so it just avoids one more step. And I do the same thing with the jar sprouts. I skip the last rinse like they recommend in the class.
Yeah, that's a big one. Make a note on that. Skip the last rinse, because we used to have our whole kitchen with trays everywhere with all this stuff drying out.
Yeah, I didn't water.
Then you got to worry about it drying out right. But if you skip the last rinse, it can go right in the fridge in a Debbie Green Meyer bag.
I didn't water any of these last night, because this is all going to get harvested today.
Yep.
And that's it. It's that simple. It's just these little tweaks for your environment and what worked for you. But the calendar, I really recommend something to keep track. And these watering cans will save you so much time.
And just for an example, you know, this was a shelf that I had in my basement that we rigged up and put towels on. And just, you have to make it conducive to your own life, your own environment, and really your own consciousness, because everyone's minds work differently. So how does your mind get organized, and how do you perceive time and understanding, and how is your life? Because all this is really, this is a huge part of you too. So it really does help.
Michael, Dawn has a question about light.
We're gonna go to the kit. We're gonna go back to the kitchen, and we'll finish up with some questions. And I did hear Maria ask about the light.
Yes, Dawn, if you want to ask the question, go ahead.
Sure. I was just wondering about light source. I know you're not supposed to have direct light in your growing area. It looks like you have an overhead light and may have a light source from the side. I'm just wondering how you regulate that.
So we have a ceiling fan in that room. And when I first started, I tried to use incandescent bulbs because they're better for us as humans. They're better for our eyeballs. I really didn't want LED lights. They're just too bright, but the sprouts weren't growing as well as I needed them to be. So I ended up getting LED lights in there, and it was a huge difference. And I used to get headaches when I would go into the room because it was so bright. So I would wear my blue light glasses in the room. But now I'm just used to it. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but there is a window in that room, and I have a curtain on the one side. But the way the position of the room, sun really only shines through at sunset for like an hour, and it's not a big deal. So I don't even close the curtain anymore. I'm like, it's an hour, it's fine. So it's kind of indirect light from outside. And then I keep that ceiling fan light on all day, and I turn it off at night. So I turn it on at like 6 a.m. and I turn it off at like 8 p.m.
Yeah, because that's the other thing too, is not only the light, but it is the airflow as well. Like you have a ceiling fan.
Oh, yes.
Very gentle wind on it as well, right?
Yeah, you know what? Thank you. This batch of sprouts, I forgot to have the fan on. It hasn't been on.
Well, our air conditioner,
Mhm.
because it's so small and it's such a small room, that actually, if you put your hand up to it, that does circulate pretty good. And even our dehumidifier, that draws air in. So there is no stagnant air in that room, even if the fan isn't running. But if you have a big room like a kitchen, you definitely will need a fan, because that's you do want air circulating. So yeah.
But Dawn, I usually do always have that fan on. It's just funny, I forgot lately because it's been so cold in there because the air conditioning's running. So thank you for that.
Of course. Thank you.
You're
Any
welcome.
other questions? Anybody on any of this stuff? I will say. So how much would you charge for this? How much do you charge people for this?
Probably $10.
So this one jar of Sprouts, she charges $10 for it. And
Oh no, this would be $5.
This would be $5.
Sorry.
People were lying. Literally, we had to turn people down and say we weren't doing it anymore because we just couldn't deal with it. $5 right here. So you can trade people stuff. If they have a garden or they're a farmer, we trade people. We use this as like money. We really do.
I was charging $1.25 an ounce for all my jar sprouts, and then $1.75 an ounce for the tray sprouts, which was kind of equivalent, a little bit more than what the grocery stores charge around us for sprouts, but I figured they're getting it fresh, so it was, it was fine for me. So $1.25 an ounce. So that red clover jar would have been $5.
The sprouts at the store, maybe not at a farmer's market, but typically at a grocery store, say like a Whole Foods or a Sprouts or a Mom's, or the best you're going to get, if you get them when they're put right on the shelf, the sprouts are probably 3 or 4 days old. Mm-hmm. Because when we talked to the guy who does this commercially, he gave us his whole rundown. And I did look into how big sprout growers grow their stuff, because we almost went to that level. But the best thing you're getting in the store is 3 or 4 days old. And when people taste the sprouts that are fresh compared to the ones at the store, it's a totally different world. And people will pay that extra 15% that you're charging because it's worth it.
And Elizabeth, to answer your question, what do we sell the sprouts in? I got these recyclable, eco-friendly containers off Amazon, and I would just fill these. If it's a repeat customer, I use a glass jar and they bring it back, because I really don't like using this stuff. I only do if I have to. I don't like wasting things. And what also I do is the Debbie Meyer green bags, as you guys know, they don't last forever. You can only get so many uses out of them. So when the bag is about done, I will, if I want to sell sprouts, maybe I'll put them in that bag, give them to the customer, and I'll say, they'll be good in this for a day or two, but you should get your own Debbie Meyer green bag. Just depends. I have a whole shelf underneath me of my extra jars that I fill with sprouts for random people.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to talk about that we didn't mention is drying them. With the jar sprouts, I skip the last rinse, and then I lay them out on this dehydrator sheet. It's like little holes through it. And I lay them out for a couple hours. Each sprout takes a little bit longer depending, but if you skip that last rinse, they'll dry very quickly on this thing. And then I put them right into the Debbie Meyer green bag and then into the fridge. You don't want to put them into the fridge in any type of container if they're wet. because they won't last very long. They'll get slimy and be gross.
Uh,
What type of sprouts do we grow? For the jar sprouts, alfalfa.
I'm just gonna make it easy. We grow everything.
Except
We don't grow buckwheat, the grass anymore. We don't grow the king buckwheat anymore because when I would eat it, I don't know if you guys ever did your research on buckwheat, but if you eat too much of it, some people get the tingly feeling in their body. They feel like there's pins and needles all in their body. And you got to be very careful because I've read stories of people seeing doctors like across the planet wondering what's wrong with them. And it's because they're having a weird reaction to buckwheat.
we were eating a lot of it. My teeth started hurting.
Yeah, so I'm glad we knew that because my hands were going numb. My elbows were going numb. And then I came across the information that if you eat too much buckwheat greens, the big king sprout greens, people can have that reaction. So just see how you do with it.
It's a word. I think it starts with an F. It's really long, of something in it. I forget the word, but that's what it is. So I'm not opposed to eating it once in a while, but the bucket that I got of the groats were actually bad. So I sent it back, and then I just never ordered more.
I don't think we would do the salad container because that might beat the greens up a little bit. Really letting them air dry is the best thing that we found.
If you skip that last rinse, they'll be dry in 2 hours. Broccoli sprouts take a little bit longer for some reason, but the alfalfa and the red clover, 2 to 4 hours. And what I'll do is I'll flip them, midway through, but it's not too bad. So you'll just have your counter. The issue is if you don't have the counter space, you have to get creative. You could build maybe like a rack or a shelf.
Anything else, anybody, before we make our way out of here together?
I think we covered everything.
I'll ask another question. Is anybody having just before we go, is anybody having any trouble implementing anything else of the lifestyle into their life?
Raw food, sprouts.
Because we really, for a year and a half, my wife and I, we really had a lot of I was in the military for a few years, and Nikki had some issues that no one could figure out. And we were 100% raw for a solid year and a half.
Yeah.
A solid year and a half, we followed this lifestyle to a T almost. I mean, there was really no difference from what you get on campus from what we were doing in our home. Even with the implants of wheatgrass, we have a sauna, everything. And big change. It's not easy at first, but because you can almost feel worse in the beginning and you're like, I'm never going to get better. And then all of a sudden, you just start to get better. So once the body detoxes on that cellular level, all the gunk in your tissues start to come out and stuff like that, you will notice a big difference.
One thing I want to add to that is, friends and family might not be on board at first.
Oh yeah, we do eat fruits. For a year and a half, we were low on the fruits for a little bit, but we get local stuff and yeah.
I love fruit.
Yeah, it's not like, that's one part. We eat fruit. Okay. For the year and a half we were doing the Hippocrates thing, we were limiting it, but bananas and avocados are two fruits that ripen 100% within their peel and their shell. So I love bananas and we do eat avocados and we get local stuff, and she loves papayas, and I got a bunch of local watermelons this year coming from my state. So I ate a ton of watermelon because I'm like, hey, it's in season. I'm going to eat it. I love it. And then when it goes away, I don't like getting that stuff that's coming from like all the way across the world and you can just tell it's not the same.
So Marjo, and I apologize if I didn't pronounce your name right. Exercise was the biggest thing for me, was the hardest thing for me to implement. Like my whole life, I would try this and I'm going to do this 21-day thing, or I'm going to do this 10-day program, and I would do it for 2 days. Okay. So, and then everything happened and we're all at home a lot more than we've been. And I started doing P90X 30-minute workouts. There's P90X3, it's 30 minutes. And I love it. And so what I would recommend for you is try even just 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes, that's it. Build the habit. Even with 10 minutes, you'll feel great. And then you'll do 10 minutes and then you'll forget it's been 10 minutes and then you'll do 15 minutes. And it's just, you know, we get overwhelmed sometimes about, oh, we have to go to the gym and do an hour and a half and warm up for 45 minutes on the treadmill. That's craziness. Just stand in your kitchen and do some squats for 2 minutes. Better than nothing.
Yeah, because if you're eating this way, I mean, it's half the battle. Like a lot of people out in the world, when they're trying to lose weight and they're going to the gym all the time and they're so frustrated about why they're not getting healthy because they don't have the diet implemented yet. And if you're following this lifestyle, the exercise is a huge part, but the big part of the transformation is the diet. The exercise is what's going to like move the energy within you. I'm a yogi. I do a lot of yoga. She's more into like the bouncing around. She loves that type of, you know, the height, you know, I do yoga. She does the 30-minute P90Xs, and we really just found what works for us. And we just do it because you feel better when you do it. And if you focus on the feeling of what you feel like after, instead of the feeling of what you want, where you're at before, you may not do it as much. And there might be a block there in the psyche somewhere of how you're looking at exercise. You might need to change your perception or your perspective on what it is for you and how you view it. Because if you're not looking at it like a beautiful thing that you can do, you might not be so into doing it. So it might be a perspective change. And that perspective change comes from work and just figuring some things out.
And you have to enjoy what you're doing. So I probably did yoga for a year, and I tried to do it like 3-4 times a week, and I just didn't enjoy it at all. It was a chore, and I know it's really good for you, and I will get back into it, but I needed a break. So I stopped all yoga for like 4 months, and I just did P90X. And I had to just get out of that rut of, oh, I have to go do yoga. It's an hour and a half, you know, because if you're not enjoying it, it's not good for you, even if it's good for you, you know? So just finding something you enjoy, even if that's walking down the street in the morning. Just start with what you enjoy, and then things you can add on after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, online exercise class is perfect. That's the P90X. It's online.
Yeah, the whole world's online right now. So, anything else, anybody? Anything? We're an open book, very transparent people. So
if you guys are running into any issues down the road, hit us up on Facebook. You know, with whatever questions. It was such a trial and error for us for so long. I would love to help you. So if something comes up,
please.
How do we find you on Facebook? Are you you're in the group Hippocrates?
I'm on the Hippocrates group. Here, I'm gonna give you guys my email on here.
I don't have Facebook, but you can go through him.
I'm going to put my email on here. Please email me, because you still have your PDF book, right?
I actually made a how-to sprout book.
We normally sell it, but I'm going to send it to you guys for free, and I'll put you in I'm going to start a newsletter, and I'll put your email in my newsletter. But it's a book. Everything we went over today, step by step.
And actually, one thing I just thought of right now, you saw in the sprout room, I wasn't using drain trays to catch the water. When I first started sprouting, I did do the drain tray. I would have a clear plastic tray on the bottom. I would have 4 sprout lids to hold the tray up. And that's how I did it for the first year and a half. And then when I got so used to how much you're supposed to water, I was like, you know what? I'm going to cut that drain tray out because it's less to clean. It's less stuff. I didn't have to empty the tray of the water, and it's been working for me. So if you're new to sprouting, I would recommend using a drain tray, because in the beginning, you don't know how much to water and you don't want to overwater. But once you get the hang of it, get rid of that drain tray and it's just less stuff.
The cooked food thing. So for, like I said, a year and a half, almost 2 years, she drank juice for 4 months, and I went fast. 3 months with her. So like we've gone, and I've done extended fasts and all sorts of stuff. And we went a year, almost 2 years, 100% raw. I mean, 100%. And recently we were like, hey,
Sweet potatoes.
We're eating some sweet potatoes. Like, you know, I had some of my mom's soup, you know. But be careful.
It's a slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope. It's nuts once you start eating that stuff. So I'm gonna plan on hopping back on the 100% raw bandwagon, like relatively maybe this winter. But I let myself out a little bit to see what's out there and see where I'm at with everything. Because one thing I learned is this isn't a religion. And if we put ourselves so tightly into a box, it creates resistance. And so it's like a balance between allowance and resistance. And I'm the type of person that I'm all in. And that creates resistance. So one thing I'm working on in my life is having more allowance. And what I'm saying is balance. So if we have all this resistance against us and we want to do something over here, one day we could, if we're not careful, do this.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if you're sick, if you have an illness or an ailment you're trying to fix, that's when you got to bring the resistance in.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a naturally flowing human being trying to get into a flow state of life, it's something that you got to work on. And every individual is different. So that's my answer for that one. So
one last thing I'd like to share with all of you is give your pets sprouts. They love it.
They do.
Our one poodle, he loves pea shoots and sunflower. Our other one wants nothing to do with any of them, but some of them love them and they just chomp away at the greens and it's so cool to watch. Or sneak it in their food. If they eat raw food or whatever, if it's like soft food and you can mix it, try it and see what happens. It won't hurt them.
Yeah. So thank you everyone so much. You got my email on there. Just email me, introduce yourself, let me know who you are and where you're from. So I know you're not somebody just coming across my website or something. And we'll send you her PDF that she made.
Yeah, how are we going to send that to them?
On email.
Do we have their emails?
They're going to email me.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
So thank you so much and keep rocking out with health.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys. This has been so cool. I've learned so much from you. Seriously.
Cool.
Like so many tips that just don't come in the Hippocrates Institute book.
Good.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
See you guys.
Bye. Peace out.
Bye.
Bye-bye.